Vintage Stewart Warner AM radio. Vacuum tube. Let's see if we can make this thing work. I don't think it was originally red. I think somebody painted it, which is kind of tacky, but they painted it many, many years ago, so it's probably not considered shabby chic. How do you say that? Anyway, what's neat about this is it looks like it goes up above 1500, maybe to 17 or 1800. They call it the police band. I don't really care about that. I just want something with that smooth, mellow, cool vacuum tube sound to listen to my Camp Lejeune advertisements on. So this is a Stewart Warner model R-167-AS receiver, and here are the tubes. So this is a bit older. This is before the SQ7, SA7, all of those. So this is a bit of an older radio. It is a power transformer set. So let's see if we can resurrect it. It's got a mint condition power cord here. Absolutely safety first. I don't know, was this painted? I don't think whenever this was, this radio 1940s, I don't think this would have been painted red. See if I can get a date on it, and I don't think it would have had that 1/4 inch plug there. According to the Radio Museum website, it is from 1936-37, so it is early, and it's supposed to look like that right there, not that. I mean, definitely it's the same radio, but it's been, fire hydrant red. So this thing's in its 80s. That's pretty impressive. Okay, there's a couple different ways we can go about powering this up. We could pull the chassis out, analyze it, check the capacitors, change the power cord. Or we could just plug it in and see what happens, which is sort of what I'm opting to do. You notice it does not have a coil antenna. It has this lovely mint condition wiring. I wonder if this has asbestos in it. So this must be our antenna. Yeah, let's just power it up. Let's get a, how many watts is this thing? Let's get like a 40 or 60 watt bulb. We'll start off with a 25 watt bulb there. Okay. Boy, well, that's full brightness. Yeah, we have a short in the cord. There we go. Come on. Unshort. There we go. When the light bulb got dimmer, I know we came away from the short. I wonder what this is. Oh. Now the bulb is getting dimmer. Yeah, this cord's gonna have to be replaced. Thought maybe we could save it. Yeah. Come on. Just work with me long enough to me make a fool out of myself. It's shorted right here. So I'll move it around, see that? Okay. So that's pretty dim. I'd like to hear some noise from the... Oh. Yeah, so a Crackle Pony Master Play for your Camp Lejeune advertisement. Oh, cut it out. I'm going to go to a 40 watt bulb. Alright, so we hardly got anything. We might need to go to a 60. Let me get a 60. It's waking up. Let me go up to a 60 here, or whatever this is, a 68. Oh, look at the light came on in there. So what do we have, a bad speaker with this?
Inspire's not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com. Some people like A and others like B. At BMW, we prefer stereo.
It just totally overloads and blows out on KNX.
그래서 그렇게 그냥 go to our website. 혜택을 받으시기를 바랍니다. 선생님 오늘 사연 주신 선생님 다시 한번 기운 내시고요. 건강. Through there, breakfast and lunch is included in everything.
Interesting, it doesn't go up high enough to get the "this is a test lady." That's up above this.
My sweet
That's above this.
근데 이 여성분이 전
Amén.
que cuando yo confío en el Señor.
Damn, this thing works good just as it is.
하기 전에
Well, not good.
Garcia. I just heard someone say, for real, that they thought drinking a double espresso after a bottle of wine would sober them up. Which I thought
Your lady poverty. Blood straight. Alright, this was probably played last year. Just look to run. That's not right.
It's done by the Beatles. It was created by
Oh, plate shorted out.
Stick Park on August.
Kickoff, guys. And 42,000.
Some trouble. Reeling off the
As recently as last season, in fact. Called
weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. This report brought to you by LA Parking. Here's to...
Okay, so this doesn't control the volume, as in this controls the gain.
We have a concave car in lanes, right lane, right shoulder partly taken away, and that's what's going on there. Also on the 105 eastbound at Long Beach Boulevard, it's a stalled...
To what's happening in Europe right now, where infections have been rising in the UK, France, and Italy specifically. No surge in the States just yet, but as the weather cools and people start spending more time inside, the virus spreads more easily, and the risk of a resurgence goes up.
The midterms.
You just feel more comfortable to open up, to be vulnerable, to tell them what's going on than you would a male officer.
Officer Cheatham says LAPD has a goal to have a lot more females on the force by the year 2030. Reporting from LA Valley College, Natalie Tavidian, KNX News, 97.1 FM.
And nearly 700 people showed interest but didn't test today. LAPD says they will reach out to them to set up test times. There's anger and sorrow this weekend in Highland Park over the death of a popular liquor store clerk who was trying to stop 4 shoplifting teenagers. 69-year-old Stephen Reyes died Thursday night after one of the teens slammed an electric scooter into his head as he followed the kids out of the store when they grabbed a 6-pack of beer. CBS 2's Nicole Comstock says he'd been a beloved member of the community, and many people have been leaving candles outside the store and offering prayers.
Reyes immigrated to the United States from the Philippines in search of a better life. His daughter, a local emergency room nurse, says he was a humble and hardworking father of 4 who taught her about determination.
Oh, cut it out. I want a scooter slammed into my head. Damn it, work. Well, it's been recapped. The electrolytics have been with these. I'm no good with date codes. I don't know. The 84th week of 1950. The 50th month of 1984. I don't know. You tell me.
It's going to expire. So please call me, Tom Brown, right away, and my ERC experts will run the numbers. Call 844.
Is that a blob of solder stuck to the resistor?
That's 844-949-2424.
Good thorough visual inspection.
Proud Navy veteran. 844-949-2424. Call 844-949-2424.
Introducing Spectrum One.
Trying to figure out what's wrong. I'm going to go through and tighten all of these up a little bit. This is the 6K6. I'm going to assume this is the audio output. I'm just going to squeeze all these pins down a little bit. They're real loose, and that this is the tube I initially rocked that got it going. So I'm going to tighten all these. Let's do some voltage checks here. The bulb is hardly lit. So it looks like my B plus is 110. That seems very low for this. For some reason, I think this set should be up around 200.
See, this control off a little bit, because that's the key with Blake's now, is his control. If he's throwing
So it's
strikes,
working.
he's as good as any.
It's kind of like, just like that, yeah. So that's low. Let's see, I believe this is 2.46. I think that's the grid. And this disconnects the grid. So the grid is wired up through this 1/4-inch connector. So when I push that, it disconnects and it goes to 0 volts. So that capacitor there is leaky, that black one with the yellow writing on it. Because let's see what we got on the other side of it. 73 volts. That doesn't seem too bad. So the cathode is 8. Okay, 8 is connected to this. This must be a flex ohm, asbestos ohm. We've got 1/10 of a volt on the cathode. Well, either that tube is dead or the B plus is way low. Okay, we've got 210 on the screen. So let's see, 1 is nothing, 2 is filament, 3 is plate, 4 is screen. So screen is 210, that's about right. Why is the plate so low? Oh, now the plate's 210. What's going on here? I thought that was just 100.
Inspire.com. Inspire. Apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire's not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of
Yeah, this tube socket's garbage.
home title deeds. When a criminal transfers
Look at when I undo that, how the cathode voltage drops, because it's that capacitor's leaky.
when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, that's when the legal nightmare begins. You need home title lock. America's leader.
I think this tube is bad.
Us blocking the carpool lane. We did get the tow truck in there, and he's very close to having it all picked up and out of your way. Heavy around downtown LA right now. The 5 south from the 2 down through the East LA interchange. The 110, even the Glendale Freeway are in on the act right now to make it tough to drive around.
There's another flex ohm right here. This is a very interesting radio. It's obviously had so many repairs done over its life, and a lot of them are quite botched. I think what I'm going to do is dig up the schematic on it. I think that would be the... See that? That's a capacitor stain on the chassis. I love my capacitor stain. Yeah, I don't. This thing is sealed. There's no way to even get anything in this. All right, so what we do is we go all the way up. Right? Then we go over here to the oscillator. We unscrew this, meaning reduce the capacitance to speed up the oscillator. There we go. Then we peak this one. There she is. Everybody's favorite.
This is a test. This is a test. This is only a test. This is only a test.
So then what we're going to do is we could leave that there, I guess.
Today is a great day testing. This is only a test.
It all depends on if we can achieve a peak. Yeah, we can achieve a peak, so we're okay.
Control system goes. You did was to receive a text that this was complete. It's here now. Connected living. Thanks to
this is
your total solution for smart home and office. TV installation anywhere. Music everywhere. Home theater design.
Let's check the ESR on these capacitors. What I've done is I've shorted them all out to make sure they're all discharged. The ESR meter does not like you to put voltage across it. That kills it. So here we go. Let's start with this one here. kind of dead. That's just shorting it. Let's do this one here. Am I making connection with these things? That one's good. Is this one really that dead? This one here looks completely dead. This one. How about this one here? Airplane in the sky. This one's okay. So this one's okay and this one's okay. Airplane. There's a screw missing here. They left this in circuit, which is a big no-no. What's missing? This thing has been malleolated to death. So many changes to this radio. These two are in parallel. If you follow the wire, you can see the positive right here is connected to this wire here that comes over to the positive here, which is the positive here, 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 here. And then the two negatives are tied together. The main voltage comes here through the resistor and then should be filtered off by this or this. This should not be in circuit. These things short. Whoever did this is a no-no. Yeah, this should not be in circuit. But anyway, this is bad. So I need to get a schematic because I think there's a bunch of bodged values. Not that it matters, but I printed out the schematic on the Stewart Warner radio, and I don't know where my head was working on this thing and how I missed that it has a replacement speaker in it, and it originally had like an electrodynamic speaker with an electromagnet for the fixed magnet instead of a permanent magnet, which is also used as a filter choke, as a radio of this era would have. They were not, I don't think they were using many permanent magnets in this era. And you can kind of see that the speaker originally had the spider was on the front, and it was one of those kind of things with the three fingers that hold the cone in place. Anyway, looking at this, as I sort of acknowledged earlier in the video, this set has been highly modified to accept a permanent magnet speaker, and basically there were a lot of modifications made, and to make this video sort of interesting, because it's been pretty much a nothing video up to this point, I'm going to go through with a red pen and make all the changes that were made to the radio. I'm going to basically reverse engineer the person that modified the radio. But I can tell just by looking at this well, of course, this coil is missing. This resistor has been removed, and this resistor going from basically the center of the power transformer to ground provides a negative voltage here, which gives a negative voltage on the grid of the audio output, because the grid needs to be negative of the cathode, or the cathode needs to be a higher voltage than the grid. So what they did is they removed this, they installed a resistor between these two capacitors to eliminate this. Then they basically, I think they eliminated this biasing network here for the tube, and they installed a resistor here in the cathode to float the voltage of the cathode up to make it more positive than the grid. So I'm going to go through and basically make all those changes with a red pen. and then we'll go through and we'll look. That flexome, that's not 1936. So yeah, my head was just in the wrong place when I did the first part of this video, but let's go through and get it straight. I will say this, the radio is too modified for my interest. The red paint, the wrong speaker, all the modifications to the circuitry, I just don't have any interest in this radio. I don't have any interest in restoring it or fixing it up. It's too modified for me. It's interesting that they show the grounds kind of upside down, and over here they show, I guess, the chassis ground to earth ground. So that's kind of interesting how they do that. And you can see this is the volume control, which is in the gain. So it's not an actual volume control over here between the audio output and the detector. It is like adjust the gain of the front end. So anyway, let me get it apart. We'll go through and then we'll talk about all the changes and go over the schematic. Kind of a whiteboard nerdy video. Okay, the more I look at this, the more just absolutely thrashed it is. So originally the filter capacitors were right here and here. You can see the mark there. And the power transformer was in this space right here. You see that this lovely work here. And of course none of these capacitors were here. This resistor wasn't here. If we look at this sort of horrible photograph we have, you can see the power transformer sitting right there behind the speaker, which would have been in this hole, and it was bolted down through this and this. And yeah, this is the same power transformer. It was just laying down in there with the leads coming out of the bottom of it going into the chassis, and the two capacitors were mounted there and there, as you can see. So we have the tube, then capacitor, capacitor, the tube, then capacitor, capacitor. So this thing has been completely re-engineered practically. Everything's been moved around. I don't know why you would really need to move the power transformer from laying down to standing up. I'm not quite sure what that's about. It looks like it's the original power transformer. At least the bolts are in the right place. This is not a very good picture. And of course this is not the right speaker with one little screw holding it onto the chassis. Well, I don't know where my head was at the first part of this video. Okay, I'm going to try and go over this. It's kind of confusing. It's all dialed in my head, but to try and convey it is going to be pretty interesting. So the cathode on the audio output tube used to be tied to ground. It's now got this 500 ohm, I measured it, this 500 ohm flexome resistor here is now in place of that being tied to ground. This used to be a biasing network here, and what they did is the center tap of the transformer, they floated it up through a 320 ohm resistor. And scratch these markings here, I'll go over this. So they floated it up, which applied a negative voltage here. So I don't know, this was probably negative 8 volts. Now they have a 500 ohm resistor here, which is essentially the same thing. It floats this up, but it's probably not ideal. You probably need to put an electrolytic capacitor across in parallel with this resistor. So now what we have is we have this deleted right here, this line, and this capacitor, this resistor, this line, this 320 ohm, this is all deleted, and we have basically a 260 to ground, and that is this right here, which is just going to ground. This is just going, this was one of the old biasing resistors. It's just going to nowhere. You can see it's going to a pin there with nothing in it. So that's just, now we get to the power supply. So originally the power supply had this field coil for the speaker, which was also a filter choke. What they've done with this whole thing here is they've taken and tied the center tap straight to ground, and then they're coming out of the tube, and they have two 8 microfarads in parallel. That's this, and then they're coming through a 2K resistor, which is this right here. And then they have two more capacitors, an 8 and a 16 in parallel to ground. So this is the 16 and this is the 8. And then your B plus is coming off of this. So essentially, this 2K resistor is the voltage drop. Well, the voltage drop that originally appeared across this coil is now appearing across this resistor. And because the inductive reactance of this coil is like a filter choke, it's a very good smoothing filter to get rid of AC hum. They've had to add this 2K resistor and all this other capacitance in here. I mean, originally this thing just had 2 8 microfarads. Now it's got 8, 8, 8, and 16. Well, it should, because this one and this one are open. This is open and this is open. And this is probably due to short any minute. They've had to add all this capacitance, additional capacitance in here to do the job that this coil for the original speaker originally did. Also in notes, this capacitor is leaky. This capacitor here is that one down there that I talked about with the yellow writing. This capacitor right here, which is like a tone capacitor, is shorted. It's 0 ohms. And I have a feeling this capacitor right here is intermittently shorting. That would be this capacitor down here is intermittently shorting. That's why the volume keeps going up and down. So, like I said, this one's gone. This one's shorted. This one's probably shorting, and this one's leaky. This one, I don't think that's paper. That's probably mica. That whatever that is. So anyway, a lot of mods here. I mean, it totally makes sense. This is something you would have seen in later radios, except the only difference is this point right here would have gone up here, and then this point over here on the other side of the 2K would have fed these front end units, because the front end units take a lower voltage and more filtering than does the audio output, which is higher current, higher power. So anyway, I hope I was able to convey the modifications here. This is me trying to modify this, but yeah, I just couldn't do it. I mean, it's... Anyway, is this a functional thing? Yeah, probably. But it totally makes it a bodge job, unoriginal, botched, malleolated abortion. I mean, it's horrible. Checking the audio output tube, it definitely looks okay and no leakage, so Color Royale. I went and picked up the parts just to do an absolute minimal repair. So I picked up a power cord, which is like $1.25. I picked up a standoff to isolate from that old gel capacitor that's going to short. I picked up a 22 microfarad at 350 volt to replace these two capacitors here. I picked up a 0.01 to replace this one. That's the tone capacitor that shorted. Picked up a 0047 to replace this capacitor. I picked up a 0.02 to replace this capacitor. So that's all I'm going to do. Should take about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to do a minimal restore. And I don't, like I said, I don't want this radio. I'm gonna find a new home for it. There's got to be somebody that wants it. Hey, it's painted red. It'll match your IKEA furniture. Caked with dead spiders. All right, we're getting this done, getting it all ready to go. I mean, you know, polishing a turd. I'm going to move. This is the line filter capacitor. This is a fuse right here. I'm going to move this. I should have replaced this. I don't know why I didn't, but I'm going to move this over. Or does it matter because it's connected to chassis? Okay, I got everything isolated from this old capacitor. I'm just using it as a standoff. I replaced this one and that other one that were in parallel with a 22 at 350. I replaced this tone capacitor, which was shorted. I replaced this, which takes the RF off of the plate. I got that out of there. And I replaced
cloudy right now. Chatsworth 72 degrees currently.
the grid coupling capacitor.
Degrees cloud cover in Long Beach. That's at 1218. National
volume control needs to be replaced. A lot more needs to be replaced. Anyway, yeah, this resistor gets pretty hot, so it's probably a good idea that you got this hole there to vent the heat. Yeah, it's this capacitor should probably be changed. That is a fuse. This right here is a fuse. So, but hey, maybe, hopefully someone will adopt this turd. These should be changed. These other paper capacitors should be changed. Maybe a hole drilled in the volume control so it can be sprayed. But anyway, I think we're good here. Maybe I could go a few more times. Like a. Look at this contraption right here they came up with to hold the power transformer down. Take a coat hanger, wrap it around, force it through, and then thread a nut onto the end of it. Well, I was letting it run and it kind of died. It went off frequency. It sounds like it's working, but it won't tune the AM band. And I start checking these capacitors, and this one right here is measuring 8 ohms. So I'm thinking that one's shorted. And it did. It shorted. So after it ran for, I don't know, an hour or so, the capacitor shorted. That's what happens with these paper caps. They all need to be changed.
Down LA, we've got some slowing through the Cahuenga Pass now on the northbound side of the 101. Have you stopped smiling, eating the food with friends because you're embarrassed of your teeth? It's time for you.
So this one right here is the one that's causing the volume to go nuts.
Ask the call now for a no obligation free professional appraisal. 800-885-1400. 800-885-1400. 800-885-1400.
And it's doing that because it's shorting, and it's pulling this low, which is the same as turning the volume up. So all these capacitors need to go. So yeah, now the volume control actually works.
Next news, 97.1.
But it motorboats because it's missing capacitors.
And I'm Vicki Moore. Top local story at 8:03 is the scandal at LA City Hall. The council meeting yesterday, boy, it was shouted down, and they're going to try and meet.
News 97.1 FM.
The people you know.
The voices you trust.
903, good morning, I'm Dick Hill.
And I'm Vicki Moore. Big story at 9:03 is what's happening or not happening at LA City Hall.
Okay, so all three of these are shorted, and they're all intermittently, randomly shorting and unshorting. And yeah, it works with them cut out, but the gain is substantially reduced. I mean, if we just...
Members under fire, Martinez, Kevin DeLeon, and Gil Cedillo to resign, and they say...
You can hear how this affects the gain.
Battery plants will also make battery
And this one too. It's not.
Vice President of Battery Solutions, Mark Bull. Their newly created GM Energy is looking at a variety of...
They kind of short and unshort when they want. They're totally erratic. But I'll measure them with an ohm meter and they'll be 0 ohms. They'll be shorted sometimes. I'm just going to put these film capacitors. These are 0.1 and these are 0.1. So I'm just going to put 3 of those in. Check this out. This is the importance of lead dress, which I took a shortcut and it backfired. So originally all 3 capacitors were tied here. But to make it simple, I followed this ground wire over to here, then it connects to these 2 pins, then it connects to here, then over here. So this is essentially ground. So I grounded the capacitors here. Well, listen to it motorboat and watch when I ground that to the chassis.
The embattled members of the LA City Council show up to today's meeting. The controversy continues in the meeting underway now. City Council chamber, downtown LA. We have in-depth team coverage coming up at the bottom of the hour. Right now, 10:25. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. This update sponsored by Get We Can Survive tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Tom Tran.
We'll start with this Sigler, southbound side of the 14. This is over near Soledad Canyon. All lanes were blocked.
Can't take no shortcuts. I'm going to have to ground them all back here where they were. Okay, I corrected the capacitors and got the lead dress cleaned up. And no more motorboating. So there's an educational thing right there. So now the local DX switch works. Everything works.
It's on KNX News, 97.1 FM.
I'm Chris Kimball's coming up on KNX News 97.1 FM. Former runner-up contestant on American Idol. With a promising career.
To not let you become a U.S. Senator.
Hey, from the great state of Wisconsin, appreciate him joining us. I encourage all of you out there listening to us right now.
Good, it's fixed. Whoever adopts it should replace the rest of these capacitors. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are old.
As the old saying goes, when thunder roars, go indoors because lightning is associated with these thunderstorms. Now it looks like we're going to get another round of isolated showers and thunderstorms.
Anyway, those 3.
It's not just over the mountains.
These were original. These are not.
Valleys and also close to the coast, just like yesterday. The good news is that we're looking at a drier, warmer weather pattern for Thursday and Friday. However, the unsettled weather continues.
This thing is an Armadale McDweeblies are ready to be adopted, hopefully. It's got a new power cord, new capacitors, whatever. Let's do a quick band scan, which everybody loves. I was hoping for a Camp Lejeune advertisement, but apparently they pulled those off of the radio, but not the TV. This thing has not been aligned, and it really needs to be aligned, like really bad, I'm sure. Especially after the recap, or partial recap.
Little childhood You're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. I know how much you're paying.
You do?
24/7 and visit sweetjames.com. Attention anglers. Join the Angler Chronicles crew every Saturday morning between 5 and 7 a.m. Good reasons, or reasons at least that we would understand. And the Dodgers too. Okay. I need to go to Corinthians and have it memorized.
Listen to Sedano and Cap more at 4 p.m.
And it is Sedano and Cap once. Feel the difference.
Southland weather from KFI. Partly cloudy tomorrow with highs mid-70s to mid-80s. This report brought to you by...
Questions for Dave. Dave, can you just describe? Dave, can you talk about pressure?
Nigeria uno.
As a county federation.
Outraged bank clients. Storm.
Regarding the Calidor string quartet. Es comparable.
Siempre lo han hecho.
¿En dónde va a estar la...?
The kid, a little monkey. But he looks like a little monkey. But that's wrong.
And I know...
This is a test. This is only a test. This is only a test. It's a great day test.
It needs to be cleaned.
This is a test. This is only a test. This is only a test.
This radio is aligned with a good antenna. This would be one hot radio.
Only a test.
님하고 이야기할 시간이... We're forced here. Es en Texas, es para Estados Unidos. Como dice el dicho, como Dios manda.
Llena los requisitos. My worth is not in...
It actually works pretty good. I think the person that modified it got the modifications right. And I do like the radio. I like this dial. I like the way this works. I like how it says radio on it, so you know that it's a radio. That's kind of cool. I do like it. I just, yeah, it's a little bit too modified. You could put new grill cloth. Yeah, I don't like the red either.
Okay with our adapter.
Comments on the previous question.
Maybe I'll come out at gray line and I'll put it on this as a test, and we'll see if any DX starts to come in on top of it. One time we were listening to it and there was music coming in on top of the test lady, like a music station DX. So we're at gray line, and if you listen, you'll hear a Spanish station coming in on top of it.
This is a test. This is a test. This is only a test.
DX.
This is only a test.
Gray line is sunset, basically.
Today is a great day.
Los pecadores, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Amén. Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. Bendita eres entre todas las mujeres, y bendito es el fruto de tu vientre Jesús.
Santa María, Madre de Dios, ruega Señora por ella y por nosotros los pecadores, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Amén.
Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. Bendita eres entre todas las mujeres, y bendito es el fruto de tu vientre Jesús.
Santa María, Madre de Dios, ruega Señora por ella y por nosotros los pecadores, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Amén.
Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo.
Testing. This is only a test.